Hello guys and welcome to my channel. My name is Jesper and on this channel here we'll talk about skincare, hair care and all those sort of things that are supposed to make it good for a really long time. And today we are going to talk about something called resveratrol or resveratrol, I think it's called in English. And we are going to talk a little bit about quercetin. Now quercetin we have spoken a lot about before, but I will talk a little bit about it today because it is about how you are actually taking it, because when you are taking resveratrol and quercetin, then they are basically very difficult to dilute in water, and that means that it is really difficult for the body to actually take it up. And it also means that a lot of the scholarly articles that you might see, they can be sort of like very much like some articles will say that it works, and others will say they've done the same sort of experiments that it doesn't really work that well and that sort of thing. But a lot of it is to do with how they're actually mixing these things into something that you can actually digest, and then your body can actually take it up. So it is so that we have spoken about something I have here, and that is called propylene glycol, and it looks like this. It's just like a liquid, so like see-through liquid. And that is something that is basically in a lot of fast food, so you might already be eating it. And then it is in some of these cosmetics stuff. And there will be people saying that their skin cannot stand it and that sort of thing. I will talk a little bit later about how it goes when I put it on my skin and when I digest it, and how much you should actually take, because you shouldn't just take a whole lot of it. But it is actually so that at the moment there is a lot of people that are eating maybe more than they should, because it is in so much different fast food. Now it is something that, as you can see here, it is special ingredients that is the company, and have nothing to do with it, but it just means that it's something that you are buying in order to use it for food. And that is basically, I bought it in a shop where it was for food, but I didn't intend to use it for food. But now lately I have taken quercetin, as I have spoken about, and then I have also lately taken resveratrol. And resveratrol, I've taken that for maybe, I think, about 2.5 months, and I will show you later how much I'm actually taking. But definitely I will say that with the method that I have discovered how to take it after I have been looking into a lot of scholarly articles, I believe that that has actually helped me take up much more than I otherwise would have been able to take up of these two things, of resveratrol and quercetin. And I think definitely it makes quite a difference. And I will say that if you follow me over the years, you can see how my skin and my hair and that sort of thing has changed maybe a little bit. And definitely I would say that it feels like my hair is staying on my head for a little bit longer than it normally did, because usually it's sort of like I always lost a lot of hair all the time. So it seems like more hair is sort of like staying put on my head, and that is obviously very nice. And I think my hair is actually fuller than it used to be. Now that is not strange, because when you look into some of these scholarly articles, then some of these faces, also the telogen phase and the anagen phase and the catechin phase and all that sort of thing, when it comes to your hair follicles. So actually these resveratrol has been shown to make it so that your hair is actually growing for a longer time, and also it's kind of like it gets a little bit thicker, so follicles become a little bit thicker when you're using resveratrol. But there might be some other studies and say no, it doesn't really so. But that particular study, that was with some mice, and they shaved the back of them, and then they saw how the hair would actually grow out when they were not digesting resveratrol, but it was actually put on their skin. And the way they did it was that they used this resveratrol into something that is a diol, and a diol, that is actually what we are having here. So that is sort of like the chemical name, but here we are actually, it's another name, it's just called glycol. And that means that it had a sort of like a 5% solution of this resveratrol, and then they just put it on the skin, and they could see that actually that the hairs, they were growing faster and better on those mice where they had actually used the resveratrol compared to those where they did not use it, but where they still use the same carrier solution for the resveratrol. So they could see that we're actually doing the same thing, apart from one mouse, one group of mice, they had this resveratrol in it. So that was obviously nice to see that it was actually working. But there they did use this diol, and the thing is that when you are talking about resveratrol and quercetin, then it is often said that you need to take it together with some food and maybe some fatty food. And it might be that you have heard about a guy called David Sinclair, and he says that he's taking, or at least as I understand, he's taking about 1 gram a day of this resveratrol, and he says that you should take it with a little bit of a yogurt. And I'm just thinking, well, yeah, okay, that's better than nothing, but it's definitely not enough, and it has to be some sort of very fatty yogurt in order to sort of like be helpful for your body to take it up. So some of the other articles I have been looking into, they are actually looking into using something like this diol, and that means that is actually something you can digest, as I said previously, and something like this here. What I'm actually doing is I take a little bit of that, and then I dilute or dissolve the resveratrol in that, and I also dissolve the quercetin in that. I will just show you just simply how I do it, because you can't just take a lot of this propylene glycol, because there is actually a limit, and that is about 23 milligram per body weight, so per kilo per day, so no more than that. So I have just eyeballed it a little bit. So what I do is actually I have this flask here, and that is a 250 milliliter flask, and I just take, as you can see, just sort of like something like this, so sort of like maybe half a centimeter up the glass, but that would be for 2 people. That would be for me and for my husband as well, so I would only be taking half of that, and that would be per day. And then I simply just take the powder that is resveratrol, and that is simply looks like this, just sort of like a whitish powder. And when it is for 2 people, I would take 2 of these spoons here, and this is a 1 milliliter spoon. So just put that in there, and then take another one, because this portion I will be making here is simply just the one we're gonna take later today. So 2 spoons of that. And then you have it here, and then you can just sort of like sling it around. It sort of like becomes sort of like really milky, and it's sort of like it shows you that it has been properly dissolved in this solution here. But if you have put it into just water, it will be a completely different story, because it would just it wouldn't look like this. So when I was talking about quercetin as well, then you have it here, it's sort of like yellowish powder, and at the moment I'm taking 1 spoon, so that would be 1 for me and 1 for my husband. So we'll take 2 of these ones here, like that. And again, it will sort of like dissolve in, because it's sort of like the same issue as with the resveratrol. So now it sort of like will become a bit dusty, so sort of like that. And then what I like to do, because I've spoken about quercetin before, and I said that I use a dollop of butter in it, and that is basically what I'm going to do now as well. And then I will take some hot water afterwards. So this was sort of like a good dollop. And a bit more. You could add a bit more if you like, but just remember that it is energy. So yeah, if you eat a lot of butter, you can't really eat that much else that day, because you will get too much energy. Anyway, we take the hot water here, and it should not be more like most at the maximum about 70 degrees, so Celsius. And we add that here, voila, like that. And it's relatively hot, but I think this is sort of like about 70 degrees, so sort of like that. And then it will sort of like be in 2 phases basically. But what I do is that I shake this up, and then I divide it. So if you just leave it on the counter, it will sort of like divide in 2 phases. So before you divide it, you just have to make sure that you have recently, just before you divide it, shaken it up. So sort of like it starts to look like this. And when I feel it, it's too warm to be drinking. So maybe this is a little bit more than 70 degrees. But the thing is that if you go above 70 degrees, you risk that there might happen something with the resveratrol or with the quercetin, that is sort of like a change confirmation, that sort of thing. So just like with the cocoa powder, as we have been talking about previously, sort of like the same concept. So basically this is still way too warm to be drinking, but I will just be drinking this in a moment, because I like to drink it while it's actually still warm, because then it's sort of like it's better dissolved. But the whole point is that you need to use this propylene glycol in order to make sure that you get the best possible out of these supplements here. So resveratrol, that is also an antioxidant, and that means that it is really good against something like hydrogen peroxide. So that is also something we've been talking a lot about when we talk about hair color and that sort of thing. And I will say, as I showed you a little picture the other day, and that was when I went to the hairdresser the other day, I actually, when I looked in the mirror after she had cut my hair, and what was left, and thought that was the new growth, and was very sort of much like for 2.5 months growth. And I thought, this does look a little bit darker than I expected. So that was rather interesting. So can you use it on your face as well? Well, that is what I have done. And you might have seen in a lot of skincare products that they have started to use resveratrol in it. And most likely they will not be putting that much in it, but then they can just write it on the label and then it's in there, and you might be going out and buying it and not much happens really. Or it might be also really good in a way, because that maybe is because of some of the other ingredients in the product. So what have I been doing lately? Well, actually, I think that my skin at the moment looks rather, I have to say, I said myself, it looks rather remarkable. I think that it is rather interesting that I can have a skin looking like this when I will, in a couple of months time, or maybe 5 months time, I will be 49. So I actually think that lately my skin has become a lot more plump, and I definitely think that that is because I'm ingesting this resveratrol together with the quercetin in the way that I've just described. It makes a huge difference that you are actually able to take up these things. But what do I do when I put it on my skin? Well, again, this propylene glycol, and there will be some people say, well, they cannot stand because it's too harsh on the skin or whatever, something like that. But it is in a lot of products. So one of the things that I like to do here at the moment, that is to use this resveratrol in my skincare. And the way I'm doing it, I will show you now, and that is just to take a little bit of the resveratrol powder and then dissolve it in this propylene glycol. So if you just take a little amount here, like this, sort of like, you don't need more than that, and then you just take some of this propylene glycol, not too much, somewhat like a half a teaspoon or something like that. And this can be a little bit difficult when I do it this way here. Just, well, yeah, something like that. Definitely more, not more than this. So this is sort of like, is well more than a teaspoon actually. Just take a little bit of the stuff away. And then simply just mix it together. And then I like to take a little bit of some water and add to it as well. And maybe a little bit more. Not a whole lot, just a little bit. And then you put it on your face, your forehead, and down the neck as well. And then I actually also take it a little bit over my eyes. So like that. And then when that has sort of like been sinking in a little while, then I would like to take some of the hyaluronic acid and put on top. And one thing to say about this propylene glycol, that is that actually it works in a way that it makes things, so active ingredients sink into your skin a whole lot better. But there are people that say that maybe it's a bit too tough on the skin. It's not too tough on my skin. So now I just take a little bit of this hyaluronic acid, and this is not the original bottle. So what is in here is basically my favorite face mask. So one from Garnier that I talked about before. So we just take a bit like this, and it will take maybe a little longer than normal to sink in. So like that. And then at the moment I like to use a little bit of Vaseline and then some mineral oil, and then mix that together with a little bit of water, and then use that as a final step actually to lock all this sort of moisture in, particularly when I do it in the evening time. It maybe would be a little bit too much to do it in the daytime. You might be shining a little bit too much, and anyway, in the daytime I would be using a sunscreen instead. So now like this, sort of like, must be good enough. And then one thing I like to do is actually sort of like it gently, because some people they say, oh, you never look tired or anything like that, and that's maybe because I do like this when I put a cream on, so very gentle. You can use these fingers here as well, make it a little bit more gentle, but I like to use usually those ones here, and then go in like here where I would normally be a little bit blue if I didn't do it. And I like to sort of like stretch the skin. So if you are relatively wrinkly or stuff like that, you don't want to just go over and over and over, because you can't really, you need sort of like stretch your skin a little bit like that, and then through the eyebrows like that. Now it seems to be a little bit more like I can put the Vaseline and the mineral oil on top, and I will be doing it like this. Just take a little bit of it, so maybe a little bit more, so something like that. So maybe a little bit more, but not a whole lot. We're not talking slogging, so something like that. And then you take a little bit of the mineral oil, just a few drops like that, and then you mix it together, and then you mix a little bit of some water into it, because basically what you would like to do is take some water and then immediately lock it in. So I have some water here. I'm just taking a little bit, just basically just wetting my hand a little bit, something like that. Not too much and not too little, maybe a little bit more, just like that. And if you feel that it's a little bit too much, you can just take it on the other side of the hands. So this feels like okay. So we're doing like that. And I like to do it out here, a bit of sort of like a massage thing, and again stretch the skin like that. And basically this is of lately my evening skincare routine. I might sometimes use some more serums and stuff like that, but what I have found lately is that definitely taking the Resveratrol together with the Quercetin in the way I have just described here, then it has definitely helped on my skin. And then using the Resveratrol on my skin as well has definitely made a huge difference. I would say my skin is really sort of like nice and plump. And one thing, if you're thinking that maybe you could use the Quercetin on your skin, don't do that, because it is super yellow and it will be completely visible unless you have completely that sort of color, and no one really has that as far as I'm aware, really. So no, don't do that, and be careful with your fingers and that sort of thing, because it's sort of like colors your skin and that sort of thing. So you should be a little bit careful with that. So definitely don't put it onto your skin. So yes, those were the words. If you like to see more of this sort of videos, please subscribe, hit the bell, and do all those things in between, also be notified when I upload more of this sort of videos. Thank you for watching. See you. Bye.